Hello and good evening, everyone. It is so wonderful to have all of you back with us for another Beauty Triangle webinar. I hope you're all happy and well and getting along as best you can in Lockdown 2.0. A quick introduction for anyone who doesn't know me. I'm Francesca White and I'm the founder of the Beauty Triangle. So it's been a weird few weeks and we were hoping to be able to have this conversation in person, but I guess we all have to stay agile right now and adapt to what's going on in the world. So we're back to webinars for now, but the good news is we have a phenomenal panel lined up for our conversation tonight. As ever, we'll have a little bit of time left over at the end to answer some of your audience questions. So if any occur to you whilst all of our speakers are speaking, then just drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom. So a quick recap for anyone who's new to our talks. We started the Beauty Triangle to really get people talking about their health and well-being, but also to bridge the disconnect between consumers and practitioners and try and help people to identify solutions that could help their problems. Our monthly events or webinars always revolve around a single topic and always showcase a panel of 3 experts who we refer to as our Beauty Triangle. Because one of the things we feel passionately about is putting genuine information from genuine practitioners out there. So tonight we're joined by an amazing panel, including dermatologist Dr. Anjali Mahto, aesthetic doctor Dr. Suha Kersh, and traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and facialist Ada Oi. And as another lockdown takes hold and starts to manifest in our skin, our self-confidence and our behaviours, we'll be discussing how to manage breakouts, how to deal with Zoom anxiety, and also be a little bit more mindful of our general well-being. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to our panel to say a couple of quick hellos, and then we'll crack on with the conversation. So Anjali, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while since we've done one of these.
I know, it's been lovely to see you again, though, virtually. Well, strange times.
Yeah, and actually looking forward to conversation tonight because I think there is so much to talk about in Lockdown 2.0.
I totally agree. And I think all of your wisdom on skin tips and tricks and topicals and all of your very hard-hitting advice, which I always love, is going to serve all of us incredibly well right now. So thank you for joining. And Dr. Kersh, welcome. Hello.
Hello, hi. Thank you for having me. It is my first webinar with you, so I hope I come out with the end of
with
this
me or just ever first webinar?
First webinar with everybody. It's my
oh
first
my God,
one.
amazing. Congrats.
Excuse me, but I'm really looking forward to sharing this time with all of you. It's an amazing panel. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else's views.
Super excited to have you. Thank you. And Ada, welcome to the webinar.
Hi everybody. Yeah, it's a shame that we can't meet in person, but you know, this is how it is. But I'm seeing that there are quite a lot of attendees, so this is going to be really exciting.
Oh God, you're better on Zoom than I am. I have no idea where the attendees even live on the Zoom page. But yes, it would be nice just to have as many people join in the conversation. And just a quick reminder, any questions for our amazing panelists, just pop them in the bottom and we'll come back to them at the very end. So let's start with Anjali. So Anjali, obviously you are one of the UK's leading dermatologists. You're also author of the Skincare Bible, which is a great read for anyone who wants to get all of the lowdown on their skincare. And personally, I always think that Anjali is a bit of a breath of fresh air in dermatology. She is always sort of my go-to girl when it comes to advice on acne or topicals or even just the latest data. She's very clued up on skin. Anjali, maybe let's just start by quickly recapping on where we are right now. I mean, what is the lay of the land? Are you able to see patients face to face, or are you back to the world of virtual?
So actually, since lockdown first started back in March, and until this lockdown, I am doing a combination. So remote consults, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely here to stay. After all that reluctance of, no, I've got to see the skin and I've got to touch the skin and I'm not happy not having you physically in front of me, it actually turns out that remote consults work really well for a whole load of things. So at the moment, my time is split and I'm doing 1 day a week remotely. So today was a full remote clinic day, and then I'm doing face-to-face work the other days, mainly for procedures like mole removals or traditional medical dermatology.
Mm. No, it's really interesting because I think, you know, this whole world of virtual, I can appreciate for some practitioners, they do need to see and feel the skin, but I think there's also the argument that people feel very comfortable in their at-home environments as well. And that's probably when you extract the most sort of, you know, information out of people, isn't it? Has my screen switched around, or am I still straight on?
Yes.
Let's try and let's try this again. This is why me and technology just do not work. Yeah, sorry, Anjali.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because you know, before in clinic, a lot of people would feel very uncomfortable taking their makeup off in clinic or having been seen in public with visible skin conditions. And I think one of the things that a lot of patients are really enjoying is being in the comfort of your own home, not feeling self-conscious because it's your space, being able to remove your makeup and show somebody what that looks like. Then there are clearly the other added bonuses where, you know, it's actually a lot more time efficient not to have to spend an hour trekking into town, an hour trekking back, and then me saying, so talk me through your nighttime skincare routine, and someone going, oh, I'm not quite sure, let me quickly go to the bathroom and grab it. So definitely for a number of things, acne, rosacea, pigmentation, it works beautifully well. Things like mole checks, skin cancer screening, not so much. You physically got to see people for that. But it's been very interesting to see how people have taken on board the kind of remote consultations and how so many people are like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to come back to clinic and see you again.
I think all of us have had such a shift in our day-to-day worlds and how we exist. I mean, can you still, for example, get good prescriptive skincare to the people that need it? Because that's something that is a huge part of what you do, obviously.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting. I think all of us have had to very quickly adapt to how our clinics work and how our clinics run. And, you know, I mean, for me, it's a pharmacy we're hooked up to. I do a script, it gets sent straight off to the pharmacy deliver within 24 hours. You know, it's a very quick, efficient service in the way that things run. Sometimes
and it has to be as well. That's the world we're living in, right?
Totally.
Everything is about acceleration and just results quickly now.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because until you're forced into that position, you just think, oh no, it's fine. We'll just carry on doing things the way that we're doing things. But it does turn out that I think that this way of working, I mean, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere now.
I totally agree. I mean, I think the past year has been quite tough for our skin, hasn't it? You know, we've had all these seasonal changes, we've had lockdowns, we've had face mask wearing. I mean, what are the most common skin complaints that your patients are telling you about at the moment?
The mask wearing thing is actually a fairly big issue because what the mask is doing is it creates its own kind of microclimate, humidity, occlusion underneath that area.
Oh, all sorts are going on under that mask.
Totally. And the big one is acne. And the thing is, a lot of female adults already suffer with acne on the lower part of the face. And then guess what? We wear a mask and that covers the lower part of our face. So it's like, are you breaking out because of the mask? Are you breaking out because you're having a hormonal flare up? So that's one issue. The second thing is the weather has changed. The temperatures have dropped over the past 6 weeks or so. So a lot of people find that their eczema and their psoriasis is also more likely to flare up at this time of year. Particularly what you find is, you know, the cold air, the wind will dry your skin out. We whack on the central heating, that dries your skin out further. And then we get cold, we take hot baths, hot showers, and all of that will kind of perpetuate the problem. But then putting a mask on top of facial eczema or facial psoriasis can also make things worse as well. So there are a number of inflammatory skin conditions that are being triggered by that. And then secondly, we've got the stress and the uncertainty that's been going on pretty much since the first lockdown happened. And there's absolutely no doubt that stress is going to make your skin worse. Then your skin gets worse. Then you get more stressed. And before you know it, you're in an absolutely vicious cycle of, is it the stress or the skin or the stress that's causing the issue? So
exactly.
There is that as well.
And what exactly does stress do to our skin? I mean, we all sort of know that it's not good for us, but what is happening on that sort of anatomical level that we need to be mindful of?
Ultimately, it does come down to just a fluctuation in hormones. So when we are stressed, we do release more of a hormone called cortisol. And that cortisol hormone, the effect that it will have downstream on the skin is things like flare-ups of your acne or your rosacea or other skin conditions. So it is because of hormonal fluctuations and the way that the brain and the skin kind of interact and crosstalk with each other.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and you and I have spoken a lot about the link between skin and stress. I mean, you're also, you know, like I said earlier, you're brilliant when it comes to topical ingredients and really sort of demystifying a lot of the stuff and the chemicals that we need to know about. So from your perspective as a dermatologist, what are the topical ingredients we need to be looking at incorporating into our regimes now to sort of battle this underlying inflammation and stress?
So if the issue is acne, then it's looking for ingredients like salicylic acid, which is really good at not only reducing inflammation, but cutting through the pore and reducing oil production underneath the skin. Benzoyl peroxide, which you can directly apply to reduce, again, the redness or the irritation that might be there. And then other ingredients like niacinamide can be helpful. And then retinol. And a lot of us use retinol for other reasons, such as anti-aging, but it's a fantastic ingredient for acne itself as well. On the other hand, if you're having the other problem, which is dry skin and eczema and dermatitis, what you want to be doing, if anything, is actually cutting back on your active skincare routine, going for fragrance-free moisturizers, fragrance-free cleansers, and making sure that you're not throwing a whole load of acid at your skin that's actually going to disrupt that skin barrier further. So
and I think sort of
issue that you're having.
And I think simplicity as well, you know, not throwing 17, 18 products at your skin and sort of having this multi-layered, multifaceted sort of regime. I think actually sometimes we do need to go back to basics and recognize those individual ingredients that are really going to help us. What are the sort of SOS products that we should have in our bathroom cabinets, I suppose, if, you know, a breakout related to mask wearing does suddenly occur? What are the things you would go to?
Benzoyl peroxide, which you can buy over the counter, that you can directly apply to any spots.
Just pure itself. Ooh.
Yeah, and then spot plasters or zit stickers. They're really quite handy if you're wearing a mask, and then you can stick them on underneath your mask and nobody needs to know about it. So that's quite handy.
That's a great idea, because I always wondered if they were a bit of a gimmick, but as a dermatologist, you do think that the zit stickers are, you know, worth their weight.
The ones that have got active ingredients in them, I think, are worthwhile. So you've got two groups of them. You've got some that are literally like they're just a dressing and they stop you picking. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're looking for something active, the ones that have actually got things like a bit of salicylic in it or a bit of zinc or a bit of niacinamide, they can actually help treat the spot itself as well. And because it's underneath the mask, no one knows you're wearing it.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, what are the other sort of products that we can sort of be using, I suppose, in our morning routines or sort of evening routines, just to keep the breakouts at bay?
So making sure, again, that your active ingredients are things like salicylic, retinol, niacinamide, zinc. Tea tree oil even can be of benefit as well. But what you want to make sure that you're also doing is, if you first of all, cleansing morning and evening, it is important to make sure your skin is clean. But secondly, that you are changing your mask regularly as well. I think, you know, sometimes you can fall into the habit of like shoving a mask in your jacket pocket, finding yourself out and about and sticking the same mask back on again. That's not ideal, particularly for those blue single wear ones. So there's that. But then also cutting down the amount of makeup that you're wearing underneath the mask as well. So, you know, it's not a great idea to be wearing heavy bases, thick foundation, thick concealer underneath, even though it's tempting to want to cover up those spots, because that in itself, underneath all that breathing in and out and the humidity that you're creating, can cause occlusion.
Yeah, it's true. And it's difficult because when we do have a breakout, for example, sometimes the first thing we reach for is the foundation or something to cover it. So I suppose if we are looking at foundations, concealers, whatever, there are things we need to be looking out for so that we make sure we're using a makeup that isn't exacerbating the situation.
So you can go up for mineral-based makeups, so bare minerals, for example. The second thing that I always say is, rather than look for the label non-comedogenic, which is often what we're told. So non-comedogenic literally means will not block pores. There's still no guarantee that a product like that won't block your pores, although it's better than one that doesn't have that label. But I always think it's better to feel the texture of the product. You know, if you are oily skinned, you're blemish prone, you're finding that you're breaking out, you don't want to be applying a thick, greasy, rich, occlusive product on your skin. You want to be using something that is light, or it's gel textured, or it's matte. So often the feel of it will tell you whether or not it's suitable for your skin.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. And what about when it's not breakouts? What about when it's something bigger, persistent acne, for example? When do you get into the arena where you're looking at prescription medicine?
So my take on this is always, if you've been using over-the-counter products, so things that contain your salicylic, your retinol, your zinc, your niacinamide, you know, all those things we've talked about for a couple of weeks, and you're still getting either very deep spots, or you're getting persistent spots, or they're increasing in number and severity, or you're finding they're extending to involve not just your face, your back and your chest, or if they're leaving scarring, or if they are affecting your self-confidence and your mental health, any one of those should be a trigger to go and get a little bit of help. Because quite frankly, acne can be treated, and nobody should have to put up with it, and nobody should have to feel miserable in their own skin as a result of it.
I totally agree. And it's always one of the things that baffles me when people sort of say, oh, but there are all these links between rare Accutane and sort of poor mental health and low self-esteem. And I think it's crazy, because actually I think the one thing we can all agree on is that persistent acne is going to contribute to a lack of confidence and low self-esteem. So it is a very fine line, isn't it? Particularly, as you mentioned, you know, with the scarring that often manifests as a result. I mean, what are the best what are the best ways to tackle the scarring that sometimes is lingering afterwards? Because that's another huge cause for sort of stress in the patient.
Absolutely. So I mean, 20% of people that suffer with acne will get long-term scarring of their skin. And the first thing I always think is you need to figure out, is the issue true scarring? And by true scarring, I mean, is the skin indented, or is it raised? Or is it just staining in the skin? Have you just got old red marks or dark marks? So post-inflammatory erythema, the red marks, or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, the dark marks. If we're talking purely staining of the skin, then there are a number of topical ingredients that can help that. So retinols, alpha hydroxy acids like your glycolics, your lactics, your mandelics can all be beneficial in trying to shift that. Azelaic acid, particularly in darker skin tones, again, can help shift that. But if we're talking about true acne scarring, so indents in the skin, you're looking at treatments like microneedling and laser potentially. There's no amount of applying something to the surface of the skin that's actually going to help those indents plump out, so to speak.
It's true, you have to sort of cause the trauma a little bit, don't you? Because that's how the microneedling and the laser are all sort of working.
That's exactly right. You need to generate that wound healing response in the skin so you get new collagen to plump out those areas. And then some people get lumpy scarring as a result of their acne. It's quite common on the jawline, it's quite common on the shoulders and the back, and it's more common in Asian and black skin. You do tend to see that. So keloid scarring or hypertrophic scarring. And if those are an issue, then actually things like steroid injections to flatten the area out, and then laser to get rid of the red marks that might be left behind can also be of benefit.
And I think, you know, we always sort of have these conversations, but it's often about a layered approach to any treatment plan that we're going on, isn't it? So exactly as you say, you know, it might be a little bit of microneedling, a bit of lasering, maybe some steroid injections, and then it's going home and it's using the right topical skincare. I was doing an IG Live yesterday and we were saying actually not using your skincare in between your practitioner focused appointments. It's sort of like going to the dentist and not brushing your teeth in between. Like you need, as the patient, to keep up your end of the bargain as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think there are lots of things that can support kind of clinical based treatments or medical treatments that are carried out. You know, absolutely. Like I wouldn't want to do a treatment for, let's say, acne scarring, and then somebody's applying something to their skin, which is actually giving them acne, because then they're going to get more scarring and then you're back where you started. So you do have to make sure that the skincare routine supports whatever that medical treatment plan is going to be.
Yeah, it's true. And where do our digital devices fit into this whole landscape? I mean, fully aware that we're doing a webinar, so sort of all of the blue light is sort of staring me at the face right now, but are they exacerbating our skin right now, the sort of the blue light, or I don't know, because digital devices, you know, you look at social media, you look at the amount of education that we can get from them, so that there's a positive side to it, but there's also the negative side of being so switched into our digital world.
That's right. I mean, touching on the blue light, actually, because I always find this really interesting, and I know that it's become very popular to say, you know, if you're getting loads of blue light from your screen or your digital devices, it's going to prematurely age your skin, it's going to cause pigmentation. If you look at the clinical trial data, the amount of blue light that you would need from your screen to do that, like you would literally have to be there for years and years and years on end, you know.
Oh, really? That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah, no, the amount of blue light or visible light that you directly get from sunlight absolutely can drive pigmentation, particularly in darker skin types. But this that we're getting off the screen, like, we don't need to worry about that. And I think it's a shame, because I see patients that are like, oh my God, I've got to wear my sunscreen with my blue light protection inside in the middle of winter in the UK, because they've been told, or they've read, or like somewhere on the internet, that actually that blue light is aging me. The amount that we get from our digital devices and the evidence that we have at the moment, we do not need to worry about that. So
we still need to be wearing our SPF when we go out and about, but it's, I don't know, because there was a lot when lockdown first happened, the first one at the beginning of this year, and everyone was like, make sure you continue to wear your SPF at home. But is it really just then the case that we only need the SPF when we are actually leaving the house?
So it's interesting. So when we look at just SPF in general, so SPF is only a marker of UVB protection. So when you look at the SPF 30 or 50 on your sunscreen, it tells you nothing about the UVA protection you've got, or the infrared, or the visible light, or all of those other bits of radiation that we get. UVB won't penetrate window glass. So if you're sitting at home inside and the room is dark and you're nowhere near a window, you're not going to be getting much UVB light. So the SPF is a little bit, it's irrelevant. However, UVA light does penetrate most window glass. And UVA is the deeper ray. It's the one that does contribute to skin aging. So my take here is, if you're really worried about skin aging, or if you're really worried about pigmentation, or if you've had a laser treatment carried out and you've got to be really careful with like sun exposure, and you work by a window inside, then it makes sense to make sure you've got a broad spectrum sunscreen. But if you're not, you don't need to worry about it so much.
And when it comes to SPFs, what are the ones that you really rate? Because this is a question that I get asked quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, so my personal favorite is the HelioCare 360 gel oil free, because that's the only one that for me personally does not give me spots, and it sits nicely underneath my makeup. I
agree, and it smells amazing. I use exactly the same, although I've also been using a PCA one recently, which has been very nice as well.
But I think, for people with pigmentation, iron oxide, that's what they need to be looking for, an iron oxide containing sunscreen, and there's not that many of those knocking around on the market.
Are there any brands, iron oxide, that you recommend if someone is looking for that sort of a sunscreen?
Yeah, so Neostrata do a good one, actually. There's a few, there's a handful out there, but unfortunately iron oxide is not a standard sunscreen ingredient at the moment. And it's the only sunscreen ingredient that will properly protect against visible light, and potentially how visible light and UVA interact with each other. So if you've got melasma or another pigmentary skin condition, you need that iron oxide in your sunscreen.
Interesting. Anjali, we need to get you to bring out a skincare range so that we can sort of fill all these gaps in the industry. Finally, before we move on to our next speaker, I mean, for those of us who can't yet get into a clinic, are there any things that we can be doing at home just to keep our skin under control and in good nick until we sort of find our way to your door again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the key thing actually is just reliable consistency with what you're doing. I think there's a real temptation at the moment to kind of buy a product, use it for a couple of days, not see the results that you want, and just throw it out and buy the next one. And to be totally honest, to see proper benefit, you do need to be using a product for 8 to 12 weeks to see decent benefit from it. I know, and whilst you're at home, I know it's tempting to just be a bit like, oh, I'm not really going anywhere. I don't really need to maybe wash. I might not need to get out my gym kit. And I've certainly been guilty of this in early lockdown days as well.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I would say, though, that if you can maintain that reliability and consistency with making sure that you're still cleansing morning and evening, you're moisturizing when you need to, I think they are probably the simplest and easiest things that we can be doing. And they give us structure and they give us routine, which is a good thing.
That's a very important thing in lockdown, actually. It was the one thing that I clung to like a lifeline in lockdown, sort of number one, was just that routine. Yeah. And I think you're right, actually, it's sometimes about simplicity. And I think we're seeing a big move in skincare towards simplicity, like I was saying earlier, sort of getting rid of the multi-layered step regimes or whatever it is. And I think sometimes the little things, the incremental changes over a long period of time, exactly as you say, are what do get results. So all very good advice. Thank you so much, Anjali. So wonderful to have you with us, and apologies again for my technical difficulties. I'm going to try and switch this around, see if that makes any difference just before our next speaker. Yes, Great. Something is going right with my laptop and my phone right now. So our next speaker is Dr. Suha Kersh. So Dr. Kersh is the co-founder of 23MD, which is a very gorgeous clinic in Chelsea, and they have a wonderfully holistic approach to health and well-being. So they're very much about fusing great medical facials with injectables, with bioidentical hormones. That's another huge thing that they do. So Dr. Kersh, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Maybe we can just start by, discussing the sort of clients that you're seeing right now, because, you're very much somebody who specializes in facial rejuvenation. So what exactly have you seen in the faces of the women that are coming to see you right now?
I thought I saw a major shift in my patients from pre-lockdown to post-lockdown, and a lot of changes in their face. I think we have to go back into what people had gone through through lockdown to understand really why they presented the way they presented. People had to go through a lot of stress and anxiety and enforced life changes. They had to homeschool, they had to look after everybody in their home, including their parents. They had to work from home. They had a lot of worries. They had what about finances, where this is going, and even going outside was traumatic. You didn't know if you're going to catch COVID breathing, because everybody was saying, 2 meters behind a runner, 1 meter behind a walker. Even taking your kids for a walk was traumatic. So everything in everybody's life was really very, very stressed, very traumatic. There was nowhere for my patients to go and talk to. There was nobody to share. The social circle was gone. So they internalized a lot of the stresses and their difficulties so they can look after everybody else. And as we all know, cortisol goes up when we're stressed, along with adrenaline. It's a kind of flight and fight a reaction all humans do. But when that's prolonged for a period of time, it kind of starts to work against us. And we start to, it hasn't been proven in stone, but that's what we're seeing. There's loss of fat, there's loss of collagen, loss of elastin, and there's aging. And a quarter of the British women have actually complained of premature aging and signs.
Really?
Particularly
because of this past year?
Particularly around the eyes and the jawline. So when I got my patients coming in post-lockdown, they looked overwhelmed, they looked anxious, they looked tired, they looked exhausted, they were sagging, their skin was tired, and Anjali would know better than me. It was, dry, dehydrated, open pores, red, rosacea, eczema, everything that could happen from inflammatory reaction, increased cortisol, stress was happening to my patients. Along with volume loss. I mean, people who would not have required a lot of treatment before had come in and they had experienced significant changes to their faces. A lot more wrinkles, a lot more fine wrinkles, and volume change. Their eyes had changed, they were hollow, they were sad, they were tired.
Well, I think so much of it has to do with the volume loss, doesn't it? And it's a very difficult one because we don't often see where it's going. Often it goes from the temples, for example, an area that you would never imagine you to lose volume in the face from, and then you see it in the mirror and you go, aha, like that's actually where it's gone.
You don't know what's happening. You come in, you think, you need some Botox and some lip fillers because that'll make you feel better, but you don't realize that's really not what's going on. What's going on is volume globally. You lose volume everywhere. So it's
so true.
And you see it in the hollowness around the eyes, in the kind of the downturn of the mouth. The people coming in clenched and very tense in the neck as well. So everything was like this and coming.
Yeah.
People, and they did not know how to interpret that, and they were overwhelmed, and
it causes a lot of sort of internal anxiety as well. I think we often speak about this when your external appearance doesn't match up to how you feel on the inside. And I know a lot of women who sort of said during lockdown or continue to say, I feel great, but actually people keep saying to me, oh, you look sad, or you look down, or you look tired. And it's all of those sort of the sort of external noise sometimes that can really sort of make us doubt our appearance.
Well, it could be kind of a cycle that goes through. You doubt your appearance, you look at yourself, you look sad, you feel sad, you don't know what to do about it, how to interpret this, any help for it at all. And
exactly.
Everything around you. I mean, I'm victim to that. My whole family was telling me how terrible and awful I looked. And I felt, oh my God, could you guys stop? It was real. It does impact on you. I mean, a lot of people had the psychological impact of what happened to our patients and the whole world was quite significant.
I completely agree with you. I feel like a lot of things, you know, skin aging, skin inflammation, just life in general, I think has been accelerated an enormous amount this year, you know, and there are some positives to that. You know, look at the ways we're communicating, looking at our channels, our platforms that we use now, the way that we sort of virtually connect. There's been a lot of progression there, but there's also been acceleration in all these things that you're discussing as well. What would you say is the most immediate, the fastest way that you can restore a woman's confidence or a man's confidence through the treatments that you do?
Yeah, I think men and women, it's quite important to highlight and not forget men, because they also suffer from what we're suffering as well. I think I mean, the most important thing is to go back to a healthy lifestyle. We've forgotten what a healthy lifestyle is. Go outdoors, exercise, sleep, be positive, stay positive. A lot of people are so depressed, so negative. They don't know how to find something happy to do for themselves, something nice to care for themselves, because they care for everything. Have a good diet and stop smoking if you can. Reduce your sugar, reduce your alcohol. All those naughty things that we've been doing during lockdown, we should start looking. And some people were eating well during lockdown, but some people were not, and it impacted their faces.
Well, I think a lot of people have seen the second lockdown as an opportunity to do things a little different. This is not the lockdown where I will drink a bottle of wine on the sofa every night, you know.
I think people, and it's a different kind of lockdown. People are more aware and they're able to handle it a little bit better, and maybe there's a teensy bit more freedom as well in what they can do, and so they're more educated in how to handle it better. So I think that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing is, don't rush into treatment. Don't do too many big things too quickly. It is often that when we are stressed and we are feeling so vulnerable that we go and, you know, we cut our hair, we change the color of our hair, and
it's so true, because we need a change, don't we?
We need change. It's really important to slow down and really get properly assessed. If the changes you need is because you've lost, you know, your skin is not so good, your elasticity is not so good, you have some fine lines and wrinkles, getting your skin sorted, getting, you know, collagen boosting, or renewing your collagen, regenerating your collagen, using some, you know, skin tightening treatments like L-therapy, like radiofrequency, alongside microneedling and skin boosters to moisturize your skin, might be all you need really to just help you move along past this particular point. But we can't rule out people who have experienced volume loss, people who have experienced difficulties during this time with their faces. And I think a measured approach to really tackle what's going on with the face and gently and slowly lift and regenerate and bring out the light in the eyes, energize the eyes, give the face its energy, and not take the time and give the patient something positive and not something to regret when they leave their office.
So I think that's a really good point. And actually, as much as you're doing this layered approach, I think sometimes a patient needs an element of instant gratification. They want to look in the mirror and recognize themselves again. But then it's also nice, you know, you can get that from a little bit of filler in the right places. You can sort of subtly reposition, can't you? But then it's also nice to have those treatments that have more longevity. You know, maybe the Botox that kicks in a week or two that just gives you a little bit of a lift and a healthiness, or the energy-based devices that are sort of tightening the skin over a longer period of time as well.
It's important for me. I mean, when I sit down with my patients, I give them a long list of things, and I tell them by all means, you cannot and you should not do everything in one go. But this is what your long-term plan is. Your long-term plan means 6 months to a year, maybe longer, to achieve what we want to achieve, so the results stay with you. And the same with Botox and fillers. I think we can, you know, we use them nice and sparingly, and to keep the face as it is, but refreshed. We shouldn't be looking to recreate the wheel and recreate things and make people somebody who they're not, because they will regret that, and they will leave the office feeling worse and worse.
Well, I think we've had a very sort of positive movement towards things. Can you hear me okay? Are you still there?
Sorry, you've cut up.
Okay,
I can't hear you very well.
Can you hear me now?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I think it's probably dodgy Wi-Fi for one of us. I was just saying there's been a very positive movement towards things that, you know, really sort of address our underlying health at the same time, our underlying well-being. And I think that's important, because I think that really feeds into our confidence. And, you know, whether it's something for your skin, whether it's for your body, I mean, you have myriad different devices at your clinic. So what are the other ways that you can really be helping people to boost their self-esteem through these treatments?
I think a thorough consultation where you are really trying to sort out our patients' needs and requirements, and not imposing our wills and what we want to do with our patients. I do spend a lot of time talking to my patients about their strengths and what's beautiful about themselves and what's good about themselves, and getting to really know and get to know my patients quite well. So I know really what's happening in their lives, who they are, what their work environment is, what their home environment is, so that I can give them a proper treatment plan and that they can move forward that's realistic to them. And also to say that anybody who's vulnerable, if anybody is vulnerable, going through a very fragile state, we're going to back off completely and try and get them to maybe look at their skin, maybe take some time off and consider things. Maybe it's not the right time to do things. So I think it's really important to look at to raise awareness and teach people how to like themselves a little bit more, how to be kinder to themselves, and do things nicely and gently that will have a positive impact for them moving forward, rather than forcing things too soon for a very quick result.
I think that's true. I mean, as someone who sort of sat in your treatment room, your consulting room, I know that you go through a very thorough consultation with your patients. And I think that you really identify the sort of psychological needs and well-being of the person sat in front of you as well. I mean, why from your perspective is it so important? Why from your perspective is it so important to have that very thorough consultation process?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay? I'll just say it once more in case you can hear me. Why is the consultation process so important?
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
I believe we may be losing Wi-Fi on Suha's side.
Okay, fine. Maybe we can.
Okay.
More technical difficulties. Dr. Kersh, can you still hear me? I can hear you loud and clear.
I would change my feed. I can hear you, but you come up a lot. Shall I move my room and maybe I'll be better?
I think maybe it might help if you sort of, yes, shift it around a little bit. It depends. I'm not a technical expert, sadly.
Yeah, it may help if we try shifting rooms with Suha.
I mean, we can always come back to Dr. Kersh afterwards. If I think she's disappeared off my screen altogether now.
Then come back. Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, well that's fine. That's all we need to carry on the conversation.
So, I was just talking about how we could see like what's happening with our patients and what is the current state of the way the world is working at the moment, how it's affecting our patients. I think you were just asking me about that.
I was just saying, as someone who sat in your consulting room, I know that you have a very unique consultation style, which I think really helps you to unpick people's motivations for treatment. And I think it really helps you to get to know them as a human being, which is also very important when you're doing these treatments. And I was just wondering, I suppose, why it is so important that we have somebody such as yourself to really identify with the sort of emotional psyche of a patient. I mean, how does that help the treatment that you then do for them?
So it's really important for me to spend a lot of time consulting with my patients. It takes, anybody who's come to see me will say that it takes longer to talk to me than to do the treatment. It's really important for me to know the patient's incentive, why they came to see me, and what made them pick up that phone and come into my clinic and sit in front of me and ask for change or for improvement. I like to know their emotional state, as I said before, to kind of see if they are in the right emotional state for treatment, or if they are fragile or going through any changes in their lives. Is it the right time for them to see me, or is it better left for another time? I like to know what their life events are, what their social and their workspace is like, so I can come up with a proper treatment plan for them and guide them the right way forward. A lot of my patients are too scared still from Botox and fillers from the media. They're still too used to the whole Instagram difficulties from other, seeing big lips and big cheeks. And it's really for me to educate them and try and figure out really what are their incentives, what are they coming in to do here. Also,
do you think that's changed with Zoom? I mean, the fact that we are all staring at ourselves via a webcam, do you think that shifted our perspective of actually what these treatments stand for, the fillers and the Botox?
It's almost been so difficult for patients. I mean, we've suddenly gone from socializing face to face, working face to face, never looking at ourselves once in the mirror, except in the morning when we put on our makeup in the evening, to constantly looking at ourselves. Not only constantly looking at ourselves in the mirror and in the computer all day when we're either socializing or working, but we're also with younger colleagues or people who have lights, or people at a better angle, or who have computer raised. And people who know better. So we find ourselves at a complete disadvantage. We don't know. We look at ourselves and we don't like what we see. And it's and you're also looking at just animating. So you may not like how your lip is looking or how your eyebrows raising. And you start seeing things like jowling or hollowed eyes or wrinkles or hollowing here that you may not see in the mirror in real life. So it's really important for me when they come in to see me to measure up real life appearance versus lens reality. So real reality and lens reality, and putting them together so our treatment plan is realistic on and off camera.
That's so true, because it's very much about not obsessing over the minutiae, because actually nobody else sees it.
No, but they do get, people do get very concerned. They look at themselves and they start getting very psychologically and emotionally upset over it. If they are looking a certain way and they're looking tired and looking exhausting, and they feel they're being judged by their work colleagues for not looking the right way, and you kind of, when they come in, it's really part of my plan is to tell them, listen, there's reality here. You have to take, you have to put it in perspective. This is not how you really look like. This is not what it is. This is computerized. You don't have the best equipment. You don't have the lighting, the angles. It's you have to take it with a pinch of salt a little bit and not focus on how you look all the time. But we have to address their issues. We have to address if they are looking lackluster, if they are losing volumes, if they're hollowed out, if they're jowling. We have to address those issues and see, is a bit of skin tightening and skin boosters all they need to give them a little bit of lift, a little bit of brightening, some skin treatments, or do I really need to go in and have a look around those eyes and why those eyes have lost their energy? Why do we have those hollows around their eyes? Why are those jowls just kind of collapsing on them?
Exactly. I think the eyes and the jowls, definitely.
And it all starts from the top. We start from fixing from the top and picking up and just lifting and working with the shadows and the light in the face. So they look natural and healthy and refreshed, and their original features, not from 20 years ago, not even from 5 years ago, but maybe from a year ago or 2 years ago, when they just felt healthy and well, and we could just give them that back a little bit with a combination of, maybe a bit of Botox, a bit of fillers, a bit of hydrating treatment, and just giving them that confidence where they present themselves to the world, and to themselves, more importantly, with a little bit more, robustness.
I think that's a really nice point, because you're right. It's not always just about what you're injecting. It's actually about how people feel when they come away from these treatments, and what you can do to restore their self-esteem and their emotional confidence in them as well. And actually everybody just wants to look like the best version of themselves. They don't necessarily want to look how they looked 10 years ago. They still want to be age appropriate. They still want to fit in. They want treatment that is undetectable and that flies under the radar. But I think what you do is very skilled and sort of bring out the best of people. And just sort of a final question, just following on from this ability to make us look and feel like the best version of ourselves. The other half of 23MD is your wonderful husband, co-founder, Dr. Gailey, who obviously runs the hormonal side of things, the bioidentical hormones. I mean, why would you say tackling hormones is perhaps so helpful to us in the here and the now, and how do they fit in with what you do?
Oh, we work very closely together. It's quite intricate. I mean, hormones do affect the skin, and they affect volume, and they affect how you feel about yourselves and your sleep and your emotional state. So if your hormones are well balanced and well adjusted, your skin is going to be better, more hydrated. you're going to produce a little bit more collagen perhaps, and you're going to be a little bit more, supple in your appearance. You will not lose volume quite as fast. You'll be sleeping better. So you'll be appearing better. You'll be healthier in your outlook. You will not be as sad, and you will not be as drained as you would be otherwise without the hormones. So a lot of my patients would come in, we would share a lot of our patients together to really give them that holistic inside and outside approach. Because one without the other doesn't work. I can't keep injecting and doing outside treatment when my patients are not well on the inside. I can't quite really.
Well, the two have to work in synergy with one another, don't they?
Yeah, if they work, if my patients require them, definitely the two of them have to work together, and they do work, and it's quite helpful for our patients.
And apparently getting all of your hormones in order, particularly your estrogen, makes your filler last longer. It's very good for preserving the work that you're doing as well. So it's a win-win.
It really does. And I've seen it with my patients, when they do go on treatments, I see them less and less, which is great. I mean, I don't really like to see them too often. It's not a good thing for our patients. I think if they come and see me, once in a while, once, twice a year is brilliant. And, when they go on treatment, they'll find that their volume loss and their skin texture and their ability to negotiate with our treatments better and hold them on longer works quite well for them.
Yeah,
because
that's
they
true.
have to care themselves.
Well, thank you. That was really helpful. And for anyone who is interested in knowing more about hormones, we actually did a great IG live with Dr. Gailey from 23MD a week or so ago. So you'll find that on our IGTV. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Kersh. So wonderful to chat with you as always.
Thank you for having me.
And now our final speaker is Ada Oy. So Ada is the founder of 001 Skin. And she also has an amazing knowledge of traditional Chinese medicine, which she incorporates into her incredible facials. So Ada, it's lovely to see you again, virtually, as always.
Thank you.
So maybe you can start by telling us about the changes that you've seen in your patients' skin since, I suppose, the first lockdown, second lockdown. What's going on right now in their sort of complexions?
Complexions, acne, it's really the top thing that I see. I have clients who always have acne. They come in for acne treatment, well-being acne treatment. But for clients who never have acne, they have acne flared up as well, either from lifestyle, just eating junk, drinking lots of alcohol, not sleeping properly, or just splashing into blind buying skincare products, using all sorts of things, and then that just creates some kind of volcanoes all around the face. I think
they sort of just getting stressed about the whole situation and throwing the kitchen sink at it.
Exactly. And so if you think about it, like actually since March till now, we're actually doing a lot of blind purchasing. So
it's true, we're not able to be in the stores necessarily actually trying things, and I mean, not that you start trying a face wash, but I suppose at least sort of putting it on the back of your hand.
Exactly, like Dr. Anjali has been talking about, feeling the texture. Like if you've got this oily skin, you don't want to have something that's super occlusive, but then what level of occlusiveness are we talking about in different types of skincare products? So acne is something, and then also it's actually been worsened by people having acne, and then they go and change to like oil-free formulas or formulas that are very drying for them. Then on the other hand, then it also dries the skin too much, and then it secretes more sebum and just creates this strange.
So it's getting it very imbalanced.
Exactly. Obviously, I'm actually seeing a lot of water retention all around the body, the jowls.
Oh my goodness, I have it so much under my eyes. I'm thrilled that you say that. It's not just me.
Yeah, because I think water retention is obviously we can look at it from an aesthetic point of view. Yes, there's I have this, double chin, and then you've got this under your eyes. But from a Chinese medicine point of view, it's also an indication of blood and qi not flowing properly. So, because
that's interesting.
Because all your organs need to really work efficiently, but you are just throwing your life in some kind of imbalance, and that takes a toll within the body. Then you would have excessive fluids that's accumulated all around.
I mean, maybe you can actually explain to us a little bit about your diagnostic process, because it is very heavily influenced by traditional Chinese medicine, and it sounds fascinating.
Yes, so I do the very traditional 4-method diagnosis. So we start by see, listen, question, and palpation. So seeing is, it can be as simple as someone coming in, their complexion, how are their outlook like? Do they come in very flushed and have this kind of ambience of just very rushed all the time? And then you know, just sitting, just, you know, when you're next to them, you can feel that this person has very kind of hot kind of temperature all around. Then you already kind of get a feel of the person. I think with Chinese medicine diagnosis, sometimes it's scientific in a way, but it's also very intuitive.
I was going to say, it sounds incredibly intuitive. You have to train for a number of years, I'm sure, to be able to pick up on these very sort of subtle indications.
Yeah, and also like facial features. Is there, you know, certain places where it's especially tensed? You know, when you talk, do they touch the eyes, or even there are eyes that can't reopen properly? You know that there are a lot of tension all around, not just here, but actually all around the occipital area, and even around the suboccipital area as well, because that whole skull affects how your face look and how these muscles are being tensed up or being relaxed as well. And then obviously the next important thing that we see is definitely the tongue diagnosis. So the tongue.
What are you looking for when you ask somebody to stick out their tongue in a facial? I always wonder if I've been asked to do it.
So it's very interesting, because like if you think about the coating of the tongue is actually made of dead skin, bacteria, saliva, but it's also the gate to our digestive system. So like we breathe through it, we bring in nutrients in, but then we also breathe through it as well, and we move all around it. So I am just going to, it's very hard to describe, so I'm just going to show you my tongue, and I will tell you how I diagnose my tongue. I think that would be straightforward. So look at my tongue. I want you to look at the tip of my tongue and also the color of my tongue, okay?
Okay.
You can stick your tongue out and compare, actually. It's all about comparison. You need to look at over thousands of tongues to be able to find what is red, what is pink.
And so what does your tongue tell you about you?
My tongue is very dark. It's almost like purple. So you would be, so you can actually tell that I have got blood stagnation in my body. And then this blood stagnation can be affected by different and then when we look at that, then we want to see if this is a cold syndrome or a heated syndrome. Then look at the tip of my tongue, it's very red. So,
and what does that mean?
This is the heart region. So there's a lot of heat in the heart that's actually affecting the whole circulation of my body. And if you think about a very heated heart, and heart is also connected to lungs, it's almost like my body is running in, 1,000 miles per hour. So it's almost like a kettle that's constantly boiling, and it's just not stopping. So that is me. So
it's interesting, because everything you're looking at is identifying, and it's linking back to the organs in the body, and all of the organs in their own way are responsible for different, maybe things in the skin or the heat or the acne or whatever it might be.
Exactly. And then in the middle, my coating is very dry. So that also further proves that I have got a very heated nature in the tongue, because if I've got a very white and slimy thick coating, that will be a cold syndrome. So it then also means that I am maybe too stressed, or I'm actually very tired. I need rest. So this is how we look at tongues. We can see many things as well. And at the side, there are people who have got teeth marks where it indicates, liver deficiency, etc., etc. And liver deficiency is a waste management. Liver stores our emotions and also process our physical waste as well. So that's a little bit of like emotional imbalance all around as well. So the reason of looking at tongue is very important to look at the face is that we want to really try and identify, for example, if you've got acne, what kind of acne do you have? Is it a heated acne, or is it a an acne that's caused by too much cold in the body, fluids are not moving, it's just frozen. For example, with very heated people who are stressed, you will see a lot of acne on the chest or on the back. That is very, but then on the other hand, if you've got acne maybe around here, it is hormonal, definitely. But in Chinese medicine, hormonal is also that you don't have enough essence and qi and jing in the liver and the kidney as well. So that all flares up around this area.
So once you've identified if it's a hot or a cold issue that's maybe contributing to the stress that the skin is going through, how do you then go about resolving it? How can you improve what it is that your skin is experiencing?
So then we'll do acupuncture in our clinic. So we'll acupuncture the relevant organ channel to really lift it. So it's almost like creating a circulating channel to really support the skin, the face.
Yeah, I see. And what about all of the other sort of things that fit into this? I mean, for example, in traditional Chinese medicine, I think food is very sort of important to how you advise your clients to sort of control the stress that's going on in their body. So what are the things that you might sort of advise your clients to, you know, incorporate more of into their diet, or actually sort of try and avoid altogether?
I think during stress, your body is going through a lot of things, like your mind is doing a lot of things, your body is doing a lot of things as well. And I really want to encourage efficiency in digestion. So what I meant is that I would really suggest to cut cold and raw food because cold food...
Just at this time of year, or like across the board?
I think especially I'm talking about just being stressed. When you are stressed, your organs, your body are actually doing many things. So you want to really try to use less energy for your digestive system. So cold food and cold drinks, every sip of it gives your organ a fight or flight mode. It goes into that mode because you need to really compensate the temperature before it can be digested as well. So if you think about you breathe in, and then with your heart as well, blood should actually go all around your body, but actually at that pump of the heart, it's actually been rushed all over your organs to defend themselves. So this is I wouldn't suggest anything cold. Raw food is just that it's harder to digest. That is the main
it gives your gut quite a lot of work, doesn't it?
Exactly. And then, but I know that sometimes there are habits that are very hard, like being a Chinese living in England, for example, I could never really get used to cold breakfast. I need to have noodles, congee, kind of like hot breakfast. This is what I'm brought up with. I cannot
have the warmth in the body.
Yogurt or like cereals. I will get I would definitely get an upset stomach.
Yeah.
If this is something that you are doing for your whole life, I'm not going to change you, but then maybe make sure the first sip would be a hot herbal tea, or you just alternate, hot and warm, just to make sure that you keep your body warm.
Start the day on something warm.
Exactly. And then another thing is go back to a balanced diet. I know the wellness movement, carbs is bad, sugar is bad, but I think balance is the key. Rice is not bad by nature. Pasta is not bad by nature. Potatoes are not. But if you are actually going through a lot of stress, and if you're doing a juice cleanse, that is just completely a clash, because your whole body, your gut, your stomach, they are trying to really fight and break down all these fibers without any nutrients. And let's face it, digesting, a small portion of rice is definitely much easier for the body, kinder to the body than digesting a piece of meat. So if you say you want to cut all carbs and then have a big, do all the keto diet, you're actually eating a lot of meat. So just, be moderate.
The problem with every different diet is that it sort of focuses on any one, gain that you have. And actually, you're right, the potatoes, actually, they're the most alkaline thing you can have in your body. You go to a Viva Maya or a Lanzerhof and you eat nothing but potatoes. And for anyone who's terrified of carbohydrates, they think that's, madness, but actually it's good for your body and it's what it needs sometimes.
Exactly. It's all about balance. I'm not saying that, have a big bowl of pasta every single night, just that. But then, it's a balanced diet, like we're learning from school, like a plate with different things. That's it.
I mean, you spoke sort of, you touched on breathing very quickly there as well. Are there any other sort of mindfulness practices, anything that we can sort of be doing at home that you think can help us to just alleviate that stress and, sort of find some stability right now?
Yeah, definitely. Just, breathing, do breathing exercise, breathe it as you mean it. So, like one of the very simple thing that I always do is really just to use the hand to put it on our core and then lift our breathing.
Try this now.
So we can do here, just the core, and then breathe in and then just breathe out. So,
and what does that do, sort of doing that hand motion at the same time?
It's really just helping you to breathe slowly. So when you haven't been really doing any breathing exercise, you will be very easy to be doing breathe in, breathe out, and then it would just go.
Exactly.
But this is almost like helping you to just slow it down, like taking very little breath, and then just breathe out very little as well. So that gives you, time for your breathing, and also give you a time to just take a moment for yourself. Another thing I do a lot is I get these. I don't know how.
Wow, what is that?
They're called. So I got it from a sports shop. So they're quite squidgy, but they are like, you've got these
the little spikes in them as well.
Yeah, and then I actually put it near my sink. So I actually step on them when I wash dishes. So it really helps stimulate, all the points that's on the feet. Like
that's so interesting. Yes.
And it feels so good. The first time I've actually done it, I like reflexology, but obviously I can't have someone do it now. But then when I actually did it the first time, I finished washing dishes, I was literally standing there and telling my partner, oh my God, my whole body is so warm. I have to do this every day.
It's probably like foam rollering for your whole body, and also anything that's stimulating the circulation, it's getting the oxygen moving around the body. It's so good for you. Exactly. And actually, I think one thing that a lot of people are probably missing in a sort of lockdown capacity is things like massage. It is sort of, those very manual techniques that can really just energize the body. I think there's something very powerful about touch. And actually, you've got some amazing massage-based devices in your range of skincare. You've got this cryotherapy roller, which is my new obsession. So, I mean, are there any ways that we can incorporate sort of facial massage or body massage into our day-to-day to sort of keep the stress at bay and keep our skin in good condition?
Definitely. I think with the body is very simple. You can always just bend to one side and then just pat all along. All these places are what we call the yin places. So there are places where they don't see sunlight. So they are usually, and you don't actually move them a lot as well. So that is where your, bloating, water retention, and because they are so hidden as well, blood doesn't actually go around, including your bum. So I always like to just do a lot of these patting, and then I will also like tilt my body downwards with my head touching my knees, and then pat the back, and then pat down to the bum as well. You're sitting on your bum the whole day, so you're actually compressing all the blood vessels, all the chi, all the meridians just being stuck there. If you've got a lower back pain, you need to do that. Involve your bum. And I think I also very, very much encourage head massage.
Yes.
So head massage.
I mean, so much of us hold so much tension. I mean, I always have it sort of at the very base of my skull. I always feel like I sort of need someone to just dig their knuckles in it.
Exactly. So you can very easily just do all these patting all across. And then also
and what's that doing, the sort of patting? Is it just a physical release of tension, or is it sort of linking back to anything else in the body?
First, it really links to really almost like giving your muscles a reset, like telling that they don't need to be in this position all the time. So and also there are a lot of acupressure points all across as well. So always patting all around here, to the side of the neck, and to hear as well. It's always very good. And then with your here, this area, obviously, if you can massage by yourself, do it. If not, really get a gua sha tool and just gua, like do the scraping.
And the gua sha is your little sort of kidney-shaped stone, isn't it, that you sort of
Yeah.
use in your facials as well?
Yeah, and if you don't want to have the gua sha tool, like my grandmother used the lid of a jam jar when we were young. So just
I
put
love
some
it. Make do with what you have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, and also stretch your ears a lot. There are a lot of meridian points all around your ears. You'll be very surprised how
I'll do this
relaxing
now.
it is to stress your ear, to stretch your ears.
Yeah, it's so true. And actually our ears never get touched. And to be honest, I'd find it quite creepy if someone started massaging my ears in a treatment. But I think actually just doing it yourself at home. What's it doing to your ears exactly when you do that?
Again, like stimulating a lot of meridian points. The ear is another set of system in Chinese meridian. It's actually how you are as an embryo. This is your head, and then this side is the...
Oh, wow. Yes, because you can have an entire sort of discipline of acupuncture just specifically for your ears, can't you?
Exactly, exactly. And then also another breathing exercise is very interesting that I always tell parents to do for their kids. Stretching, and then just put the two hands on top of the ears and then just listen to your own breathing. Just that.
I'll try this quickly.
You need to do it, you'll feel a sense of calm, interestingly.
Do you know what it sounds like? It sounds like when you put your ear to a seashell and you can sort of hear the ocean or the waves or whatever it is. It's that sort of background noise, a little bit like white noise that you hear.
Exactly, exactly.
And
So
it's very soothing.
the last thing, like massages, a lot of people have been, looking at the screen for a long time. A lot of tensions around here. Definitely, this is somewhere where you need to really do a lot of massage. So maybe 3 fingers, and then you can just move it up, and again, patting or pinching, just to relax this whole area, to open the eyes and feel relaxed.
Well, it sounds amazing. I'm going to be watching this webinar back so I can try all of these things at home as well. Are there any sort of last final facial massage tips we could be doing just before we leave you and sort of get on with the questions?
Apart from fingers, use your knuckles as well.
Yeah.
So knuckles is very strong. What I always like to do is encourage my clients to knuckle the masseter, the chew muscle, because grind a lot during the day sometimes, that without even knowing, or even you grind when you sleep. This place definitely needs a lot of relaxation. This is the strongest muscle in the whole body. It's even stronger than our thigh. Come on.
That's crazy, isn't it?
I know, it's crazy. And a lot of, like, even myself, sometimes I look at the camera and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bloated and everything is coming down. Actually, it's tense muscle plus water retention. So if you massage it, you would be able to see a difference.
It's very interesting. So I'm sure Dr. Kersh would have some very interesting ideas on, using things like Botox in the masseters as well to sort of reduce that tension. And, that there are so many different ways to release tension in the face, aren't there? But actually, yeah, sometimes it's nice just to get your knuckles stuck in there and do something quite physical and manual and sort of, I suppose, re-engage with yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, it was so wonderful to chat with you, Ada. Thank you for making the time to be here tonight.
Thank you.
I guess that brings us to the end of the webinar, or certainly the sort of one-to-one portions. And I must say, firstly, to our practitioners, it's been so thoroughly enjoyable speaking with all of you and picking up all of your amazing tips and tricks. And it strikes me that, you all have such unique disciplines, but actually, I think the one thing you have in common sort of across the board is just this real desire to help the person in front of you or sort of lying on your treatment table feel, good about themselves. And you really bring sort of a sense of humanity back to the conversation. And, so often these treatments can be seen as very superficial. And I actually think, everything that we've discussed today, from Anjali talking about breakouts, Dr. Kersh talking about sort of the Zoom face fatigue, and Ada talking about the sort of underlying sort of tension in the body, we're all sort of just seeking something where we can just feel like the best version of ourselves, which I think is sort of the most important thing. And it's what's going to get us through right now as well, isn't it? So before we start on the Q&A, can I just quickly remind you that when you leave the webinar, there is a short questionnaire and a place for you to leave your name and email address. And what we're going to do is send everyone who's tuned in today a sort of helpful recap mailer with all of the sort of takeaways that you might want from our amazing panelists. So do make sure you do that. And it's also an opportunity for us to connect you with Anjali, Suha or Ada, should you wish to do that as well. So I'm going to go to some questions that have come in today, and I've also got some of my own which have been coming in over Instagram as well. This is from Sarah, and she says, hello, what do you think we should look for in a face mask fabric? Disposable or cotton, silk, what are your favourites? I mean, maybe Anjali, that's one for you.
To be totally honest, I think that the best face mask is the one that you happen to have at hand. I mean, quite frankly, I know that there is this argument that silk is slightly less less friction, therefore it will cause less occlusion. I've got to be totally honest, you know, the masks are here to stay. Just pick one that you like. It is a little bit of a muchness of a muchness. You know, if you prefer the way that a silk mask feels against one of those single-time disposable surgical ones, go for a silk mask. But if you're looking at like the science of whether one is better for skin conditions or not, you're not going to find that, I'm afraid. So pick whatever it is you like to choose. I think that would be my honest answer.
And whichever one makes you happy as well. I found a lot of joy when we first came out of lockdown and we started wearing masks and sort of colour coordinating them to whatever outfit I was wearing. And it was sort of my one stamp of individuality in life. This is probably one for Ada and maybe Anjali as well. Is there any diet nutrition advice to help calm irritation dermatitis around the face, eyes? And please, could you share some advice on adverse reactions after using steroid creams around the eyes? Maybe Ada wants to sort of give her input onto the diet and nutrition, and Anjali, then we'll come back to you as well.
I think irritation dermatitis, they are, you know, symptoms of inflammation, chronic inflammation. I would stay away from food that have got a very heated nature. For example, lamb, beef, and if you had experience, you know, allergic to shellfish, you should also stay away from that as well. Obviously, dairy is quite hard to digest as well, and I think that you should definitely stay away from that. On the other hand, you can also incorporate like cooling ingredients in your diet, cooling nature food like cucumber, watermelon, that kind of food.
Lots of watery sort of vegetables and fruits.
Exactly.
Amazing. Anjali, what are your thoughts on diet nutrition? And you'll also be our girl to ask about the adverse reactions from the steroid cream as well.
Yeah, the thing is, eczema is such a, or eczema or dermatitis, the two words are used interchangeably but mean the same thing. It is such a vast area and there are so many different types of eczema. So you do actually need to know what the underlying cause is. So you've got atopic eczema, which is essentially a genetic condition. So there is a deficiency in a protein called filaggrin in the skin, and that protein helps you bind moisture. So if you don't have enough filaggrin, you lose moisture more quickly from your skin surface, which means your skin becomes more dry, and therefore the risk of dryness and irritation and subsequent eczema is more likely. But the eyelids are also really vulnerable to irritant eczema. It's an area that we apply a lot of products, cosmetics, to our skin directly. It's also an area that if we're spraying deodorant or fragrance into the air, our eyes may potentially come into contact with that.
And the skin on the eyelid is so much thinner as well. I mean, maybe
it's thinner, it's more delicate. It's also relatively occluded because, you know, the eye is open. So anything that catches onto the eye area is more like to sit against the eye as well.
Exactly.
So if we're talking about an irritant dermatitis, so for example, if I saw somebody that was just struggling with eyelid eczema and no eczema in other parts of their body, one of the things that I would want to do is consider patch testing them to see if they're allergic to something that they are physically coming into contact with. So this is quite different to food allergies, which you're talking about ingesting. We're talking about physical contact with the skin.
What are the sort of things that might be causing that allergy? What things could they be coming into contact with?
Well, one of the most common reasons why we're seeing allergies around the eye, for example, is due to reaction or sensitization to an ingredient called MI or MCI, which is a preservative agent that you find find in lots of face washes, sunscreens, all sorts of personal care products. And MIMCI is that group of ingredients is one of the reasons why we're seeing such an acceleration of certain types of irritant dermatitis, particularly affecting the face. Women are more vulnerable than men because we tend to use far more products during the course of the day than your average man would do. But you would need to wonder about something like that. Then there are also causes of simply irritant dermatitis where, let's say you've got a face wash with salicylic acid. You're not supposed to use it around your eyelids, but you rub your face, you get it on your eyelids, and guess what? The skin around the eyelids is thin, and it does become irritated as a result of that. So I guess my answer here is it's not that straightforward, because you do need to actually identify what the underlying type of eczema or dermatitis is. Sometimes that does require additional tests or investigations like patch testing to see if there is an underlying issue. And then I think the second part of that question was, what do you do about a reaction potentially to steroids? I mean, one thing I would say is steroids are often the mainstay of treatment for eczema. They shouldn't be used indefinitely for months and months and months on end, but often the way that they're used in short, sharp bursts, once or twice a day for 7 to 10 days, that will often switch off the inflammation. And then there are lots of prescription agents that are anti-inflammatory that don't contain steroid. So things like Elidel and Protopic that can be prescribed to then prevent the flare-ups of further eczema. So I think it requires proper assessment, proper investigation, and then a proper written treatment plan.
That is a very meticulous and thorough answer, Anjali. I would have expected nothing less from you. Thank you. Hopefully that helped Anna, who asked that question. One that came in for Dr. Kersh. What is your opinion on skin boosters, and which is better for a slightly older skin? Now, Suha, I know you incorporate skin boosters as a nice sort of stepping stone sometimes to filler or sometimes just to hydrate the skin. But what are your thoughts on skin boosters in general?
I do love skin boosters. I love them for many reasons.
I know, so do I.
I love them. I can bathe in them all the time.
We have them all over our entire bodies, please.
I think skin boosters are brilliant for dry, tired, dull skin. If somebody is just feeling lackluster and dry, and there's really nothing to treat, there's nothing else for me to treat them with injectables but that, but we can't improve their, we need to improve the hydration on a superficial level, but also on a deep level and a dietary level. So we need to come back at all different levels. And skin boosters are great. It's hyaluronic injections that are not bound. They kind of see through your skin and hydrate and kind of allow you to reproduce collagen and fibroblasts and kind of good for collagen production. What do I prefer? I use a myriad of them. I think I would not be very popular if I named my favorites or not favorites, but I do use all of them. For older skin, I tend to veer towards Profilo, I have to say, where you need to do an injection 3 to 4 weeks apart to kind of get the best treatment, and then every 4 to 6 months you repeat one.
And Profilo is quite different, isn't it? Because to conventional skin boosters that just sort of hydrate, there's something about the way all the molecules are kind of cross-linked, aren't they? It spreads more.
It's meant to modulate to spread more, strengthen the collagen. So I tend to prefer it. I have a rule for over 35-year-olds. I tend to kind of go more towards Profilo. For under 35s, and I tend to go for Volite or for something a little bit different from Allergan. But there's others, and I'll be crucified for naming any more than this. But it's not a hard rule. Different people have different skin, and different people need more individual care. So it's not a rule that everybody needs Profilo, everybody needs Volite, or everybody needs Restylane Vital, or others that are on the market. It really depends on the patient's and the requirements and what we're trying to treat. We might be trying to moisturize the skin. We might be trying to tide somebody over in their journey when they're not ready for fillers yet, and they don't want to make that step. So we just want to rejuvenate and get the skin to look brighter and get the skin to look nicely hydrated and raise the crepulence. And that might be enough for them. That might be all they're wanting and needing from the journey. Also, we might be looking to treat acne scarring along with other methods. So I might go into the scar with a cannula and dissect the lower part of the scar, and then put my skin booster there to hydrate the skin, moisturize the skin, give some nutrition, and also allow the skin to rise. And allow
so you can actually soften the appearance of that scarring by sort of going beneath the skin with a cannula and then topically or superficially going in with the skin boosters.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant for the neck and for the chest. The chest and the neck are difficult to treat. There are impossibly difficult areas to treat. And I find that they produce great results in combination maybe with other things or not for the chest and the neck and the hands.
Yeah, that's the great thing about them, isn't it? I was joking about having it all over my body, but you actually could have a lot of these things all over your body.
I'm at the age where I can have it everywhere.
They were saying skin boosters were also great sort of when we came out of that first lockdown and everyone had incredibly dry, sensitized hands, you know, really, really nice just for sort of getting some hydration back into the skin.
Definitely. I mean, everybody were very aware of their hands. They were overusing soap because they were doing a lot of housework, and then overusing alcohol and wipes and all this stuff. And it was brilliant just to give some hydration and a bit of a boost for the skin. Maybe they won't do it again. Maybe it's just enough to tide them over to the next time, or maybe they just love it enough to keep coming back and doing it again. They really very personal choice in the phase of their lives. It depends on what they're doing.
I think I always like your approach. Lots of different sort of products, and you know, you just pick the right product for the right patient, which I think is the right way forward.
If you have to be very individual with your patient plan and kind of highlight to the patients what's available to them and let them choose and guide them the right way, because they don't know what they want when they're coming to see. They really don't know. They're seeing 11s and they're seeing lips pursed, and that's what they know. They don't know. They don't even know what's nice about their face. I have to sit down.
That's sad though.
My first question to my patients: what's nice? What's your strong features? What's beautiful? 99% don't have anything to say, and then they go.
Oh, that's awful.
And it's quite horrible. And I want to teach them to love themselves. I want to teach them, you know, you've got beautiful eyes with great green or blue or brown eyes, or, you know, you've got great structure, lovely lips, you've got really lovely features. And people do not recognize that. I think it's really important to sit down and teach people to love themselves and increase the awareness of themselves, and then work with the concerns, not ugliness or not negative things. I think it's really important how we choose our language and how we treat our patients, not just in lockdown, but moving on forward.
Teach the patient how to love themselves and then do some skin boosters. Perfect.
Exactly.
Quick one for Anjali. Firstly, there's a lovely comment in our Q&A box, which is, Anjali, how do you manage to look 22 years old? And second question for you, Anjali, what can I do for my melasma? I'm waiting for my products to work. Is it a case of sticking with it, or is it a case of, I don't know, trying other things in the meantime?
I think with melasma, actually, there's two prongs to it. The first prong is the prevention aspect. So it's making sure, I think I mentioned this earlier, but iron oxide sunscreens, and you do have to wear sunscreen throughout the year. That has to be part of your regular skincare routine. And then the second part are active treatments. So there are topical things that you can use over the counter. The problem with melasma is the pigmentation that you get in the skin with it can often sit in the top layer, the epidermis, but also the deeper layers of the skin, the dermis. And one of the issues that you're going to have with just using over-the-counter skincare is it cannot penetrate into the deeper layers of the skin. So if you've got pigment in the deeper layers of the skin, your topical skincare won't get rid of that. So then the next question is, well, what else might work? So there are prescription creams that can be used. There are chemical peels that can be used at varying depths on the skin. And there are laser treatments that can be used. And more frequently now, we're also using a tablet treatment called tranexamic acid, which came onto the market for a totally different reason, but also seems to benefit melasma as well. So there are lots of different options, but it does depend on the extent, the severity, and your own individual skin type as well.
Funny you mentioned tranexamic acid, because that was actually a question that came via Instagram before this, and somebody asked us very kindly, could we ask you about the use of tranexamic acid for a 50-year-old with melasma, and how should it be layered with her other products?
Okay, so tranexamic acid you can get in a topical form and an oral form. Now, clearly the oral form is going to be stronger because you're taking it internally versus the topical. If you look at the clinical data that we've got on the topical, it needs to be at least 4% in concentration. And I always think you should put the actives on first. So if you're using tranexamic acid, after your skin has been cleansed either morning or evening, that has to go onto your skin first. You can also use tranexamic acid injected into the skin. So as a form of either mesotherapy or injected intradermally, or after microneedling, put onto the skin directly itself. So that's a second option, but that would clearly be a medical setting where you do that. And then the third option is oral tranexamic acid, which we often give for periods of 3 to 4 months at a time. But we do have to make sure that we've assessed you medically and that there is no background history of any clots or anything like that, and it's safe to give you the drug. So there are different ways tranexamic acid can be used in melasma.
And would you ever combine the two, or is that a no-no? Do the oral and also the topical at the same time if you needed to get results fast?
I'll be totally honest, you can, because the topical absorption is relatively low, that it would be safe to do so.
Okay, that's also good to know. One that came in for Dr. Kersh ahead of this, what is the most effective treatment for under-eye bags? And I want all of your tips here as well.
It depends why you have under-eye bags, and it depends really what you mean by under-eye bags. So
I know it's such a generic term, isn't it, actually? But it's, you know, is it dark circles? Is it hollowness? Is it, for me, it's more the puffiness, as you know.
It's a big question, and it really depends on really trying to figure out why you have puffy eyes. Is it your diet? Are you allergic to something? Is it your circulation, like Ada was saying? Is it something we need to do? Is it something like drainage massage we need to do? We need to look at all of those things first. Or is it the fact that it's fat pad that has bulged, and now that the fat pad is looking like an eye bag? And therefore, is it a surgical correction, or can we do a non-invasive correction with injectables? So
could you also use a sort of energy-based device like an therapy or something like that?
Exactly, that's what's one thing, is that if we have an eye bag and we're trying to tighten the skin around the eye bag, so we have to be very clear about what we're promising our patients and what the expectations of our patients are. So if we're trying to tighten the area and produce a more tight appearance, then all therapy would be, or radiofrequency, depending on the patient and the suitability for the treatment, might be the way to go next, and treat that area as such, and then watch the results and see what happens, and then go forward from there. If the eye bag we're talking about is tear troughs or under eye hollows, so you're seeing the under eye hollows, and in that you think you're seeing eye bags, but you're not really seeing eye bags, you're seeing tear troughs. Those could be, from childhood, from the time you were young, quite genetic, the way you're made, the way your skull is made. And as you get a little older, then your tear troughs will get deeper because you're losing a bit of volume as time goes by. Or if you're older and you're starting to lose volume, then one of the places you'll see it is the appearance of a tear trough, and what I call a naked eye. Your eye looks naked because your eye is, the area from the eye to the cheek is just too long, and the eye gets quite hollow, tired, and you lose the energy around your eyes, and you lose, it just looks quite collapsed and tired, and there's no vibrancy around it. And the way to treat that is also quite multimodal. We need to tighten the skin around the eye. We need to make sure that the skin is healthy, and the skin, we're trying to hydrate the skin, multimodal with microneedling, with mesotherapy, and also injectables. And to do injectables, not enough just to do the tear troughs, which is a mistake a lot of people make. You can just treat the tear trough in somebody who has lost volume globally. So when you do that in an area that is globally depleted, what you're going to end up is a big blue bulge, which will look a worse eye bag than you've had to come in with. So you have to assess, why is that tear trough there? Why is that hollow there? And is it the fact that you've depleted and you have to refresh and replenish the depletion gently before you go under the eye and refresh that as well?
Quite interesting. It's almost like you have to find the root cause of actually where this problem is coming from before you just address the symptom.
Always, we're doctors, that's what we do. We have to find the cause, we have to find the reason this is happening, and then treat it and be responsible for treating it, and have a difficult conversation with our patients, of saying, it's not just about me putting filler under your eye, it's actually about me replenishing everything there, waiting for a while, seeing if the cell fixes,
exactly,
and then coming back and fixing under the eyes. It may not just be that, it might just have to go to a surgical colleague of mine for an operation. It might be that we have to use an energy-based device followed by a treatment if so required. So it's a big conversation that requires a lot of assessment and really treating the cause of the problem.
Exactly. And you need to sort that via a consultation with yourself. Here is a question that I think probably Anjali and Ada would both have interesting insights into. When cleaning and moisturizing the skin, do you recommend oils, balms, which might be kinder to dry skin now we are in the winter months? Thank you. Maybe Ada, do you want to start with that? Because I think you'll probably have some interesting sort of perspectives from your background.
Definitely, I think oils, balms are kinder to dry skin, definitely. I suggest to a lot of my clients who've got dry skin coming into winter, even in the morning, not really cleansing with any cleansing agent, but just water, and then dry off, and then make sure you go through the, the toner serum and the moisturizer. How dirty can our skin be? Sleeping overnight in our own bedroom.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we live in London, but yes, hopefully the bedrooms are cleaner. Anjali, what are your thoughts? Oils, balms, or do you think we should be avoiding this? What are your thoughts?
I think actually, if you've got dry skin, or if you've got mature skin or skin that's come through the other side of the menopause, using actually oil-based cleansers or cleansing balms is a real benefit, because you're adding moisture and hydration to the skin and trying to improve that skin barrier function. So I think there is definitely a role for it in the right skin type.
And is it sort of true that, we often hear that these oil-based cleansers attract the oils in your skin, and so they sort of clean them off, or is that just sort of beauty marketing speak?
Because the honest truth is, even a foaming cleanser will have surfactants in it that can break down products. So I think it's a little bit of a kind of marketing myth.
It's a nice story.
And therefore oil is better for cleaning oil. That's not strictly true. You can still get the same cleansing benefits from a non-oil cleanser as well.
Do you think it would also be beneficial to do a double cleanse where you're using the oil first and then using something a little more sort of clean and foaming afterwards?
So I think double cleansing is beneficial at night time. I don't think there's any benefit in double cleansing in the morning.
Because like Ada said, how dirty is your bedroom going to be?
It's essentially that, it's during the day, it's the dirt, the sweat, the pollution, the grime, the sunscreen, the makeup that we need to take off. And there is clearly far less to take off in the morning. That said, I don't like oil-based cleansers for oily or blemish-prone skin. I would rather oily or blemish-prone skin use something like a micellar water first to remove makeup, and then a foaming cleanser. But I think for people that have got normal dry or very dry or postmenopausal skin, there's benefit in doing that.
Wonderful. One for, who is this probably best for? This might be another one for Anjali, actually. Best tips for controlling hormonal acne.
Okay, so one thing I'd say is...
Where do we start?
We like to call it hormonal acne, but to some degree, most acne is down to hormones and genetics. And it is these androgen hormones like testosterone and dihydrotestosterone that even women have that impact our oil glands. But when we talk about hormonal acne colloquially, we know we're talking about jawline, neck, lower face. Women find their skin flaring up around the time that their menstrual cycle is due and they're due for their periods. So in terms of things that you can do, I mean, first of all, reliable consistency with your skincare routine. Suddenly upping your skincare routine a couple of days before your period is not going to be the solution. And that's partly because blackheads and whiteheads form about 28 days before you see them appear on the skin.
So really 28 days?
That's right. So that's how often they will refill. So when you have facials, for example, you'll often be told have them done monthly. And that's because blackheads will refill monthly. And the same with all of other treatments that we do. So it is making sure that you're using your salicylic, your retinol, all of those good ingredients throughout the month, not just waiting to up the ante the week before your period. The second thing that I would say is that for a lot of women, if they are having troublesome cystic acne, so it's very deep, it's leaving scarring, it's leaving marking, there are also some oral medications that can be really helpful. So there is an off-label medication called spironolactone, which works by reducing the amount of hormone in the skin that causes acne. And that is excellent for female adult acne. It's used a lot more in North America, so the US and Canada, than it is in the UK. But a lot of people are using it here now. And it's probably, I mean, for me, I would say it's my first line treatment that I would use for adults that are suffering with their skin.
And where does prescribing the contraceptive pill fit into this? Is that ever something that you find yourself doing? So I've seen a lot of, friends who have, swapped pills just to try and get hormonal skin under control.
Yeah, I think that's often one of the first approaches that's taken in primary care. So what a GP would try and do often before you would get to a dermatologist. Now, one of the things that I do find is a lot of women don't want to take the pill. A lot of women have been on the pill for a decade or so. They, they've started it when they were 15. They get to their late 20s and they're like, I just wonder what my normal cycles are like. Come off the pill, and then that's when they find their acne flares up. And the last thing they want to do is go back on it again. So I think the pill does have a role for somebody that needs contraception as well. The pill takes 3 months to work for acne. It doesn't work straight away, but it's just not right for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's really smart, actually. Ada, what are your thoughts on hormonal acne? Anything that we could be doing?
It's such a big topic.
I know, sorry to throw that one
balance, like from my point of view, it's basically the whole body and lifestyle, and it's almost like you need to really go through this whole diagnostic with your client. I mean, sometimes I would actually, for one client, I would say maybe you should be doing less exercise, because your exercise are actually boosting your adrenaline so high.
That's interesting.
Actually secreting a lot of male hormones. And then, but on the other hand, there will be clients whom I would be saying that, well, they might be like over 40 years old and you're starting to have hormonal acne and also going into pre-menopause period as well. Then it's a time where we really need to nourish our kidney and liver. So it's almost like, obviously they can come do the acupuncture for that, but then the lifestyle has to change. You need to really start to, it's a Chinese translation, you need to pacify yourself, like try to be calmer. If you need to throw a temper, for example, like take a moment. It's almost like you exactly. So it's both lifestyle change and also incorporating with treatments. From a Chinese point of view, it's Chinese medicine point of view, usually liver and kidney meridian acupuncture, and also with my treatment as well, encourage lots of massage.
I think what I've always found very interesting about traditional Chinese medicine and how everything sort of hinges on this flow of energy and qi through the body is actually, once you address that and you get it all moving again, a lot of these symptoms or these flare-ups do seem to sort of resolve themselves of their own accord, don't they? Sometimes there's just a blockage somewhere that is manifesting in acne, or you hear it a lot with infertility and sort of irregular cycles and things like that. So it's fascinating.
Like one of the key measurement that I always like to use is actually not on the skin, it's really the tongue, like because we take pictures of the tongue, over time. For example, over 6 months, you would be able to see your tongue evolve in different phases. For example, today I'll be having a purple tongue, but then if I go for exercise, like 2 sessions of boxing, going back to my routine, then my tongue would look completely different.
I love that you take photos of people's tongues to measure as their benchmark, whereas Dr. Kersh takes very different photos. I'm sure Anjali takes very different photos indeed.
I know, and it's really like kind of funny when this whole lockdown starts, because they're not allowed to stick out their tongue. Like from our protocol, our professional protocol, we actually need them to take pictures of their tongue and then send it to us. And then my assistant on the day,
this sounds really weird, but can you just take a selfie of your tongue?
Exactly. And then on the day on my clinic day, I'll be having a WhatsApp of my clients' tongues.
Start to recognize people by their tongues, do you? Dr. Kersh, do you have any thoughts on hormonal acne? I mean, obviously hormones are such a huge part of what you do anyway. Would it just be a sort of baseline check into hormones? And yeah,
I think taking Anjali and Ada's points, I think it's hugely important to go down that road as well. But also, I think it's really important for all our patients, if they are having hormonal acne, to get their hormones checked and balance. It might be just a simple thing as, balancing your progesterone against your testosterone, or maybe adding something else to bring down the testosterone, or something to kind of balance testosterone enough to give you a break for all the other treatments to work. So I think it's really important to augment those treatments with a basic hormone check to see where you're at. You might be very well normal and nothing is required from BHRT or Dr. Gailey, and he can back off and not do anything. We can go on to treating. Otherwise, But if there is an imbalance, it's nice to treat it and nice to have the benefit of that. And that might be also a good way of not going on the pill to adjust any hormonal imbalance.
Yeah, absolutely. As Anjali said, not everyone wants to go on the pill.
Doing a bioidentical hormonal way kind of route, less invasive almost to the body and a little bit more acceptable to our DNA.
Yeah, no, I think that's really valid. It's a very 360 approach to hormones in general, isn't it, from speaking to all of you. One question, I break out more around the jawline during stressful times. Any thoughts? Anjali, what would does that sort of sound right to you? Is there anything she could be doing, I suppose, to try and minimize that, or is it
the same advice I probably give for kind of acne in general is what I would say. I mean, the reason we break out on parts of our face like our jawline, our cheeks, our forehead, our nose is because they are the areas where we've got the highest density of oil glands. So that is the reason why we get spots on our face or our chest or our back and not say our legs or our feet or our elbows. So my approach there would be to treat it the way that I would treat it, either initially with skincare and topicals, and failing that, having a chat with a GP or a derm. That's probably how I would deal with it.
Okay, nice. Ada, what would you say? I mean, I'm sure you've got some interesting thoughts on breakouts specifically on the jawline. What does that mean in traditional Chinese medicine, for example?
It is deficiency in liver, kidney, i.e. hormonal imbalance, because the kidney is where you really support your whole hormonal system, the whole reproductive system as well. So yeah.
And anything you could do or to sort of regulate your liver, if that's the thing that's controlling all of this?
All the diet advisor I have actually talked about, cut cold food, and also be kind to your whole digestive system. Liver, again, it processes physical waste and emotional waste as well. So be kind to your emotions, be kind to yourself. I think
let go of everything.
Yeah, it's very hard. I know that I say it all the time, but then I always have this kind of like, I would have, during this lockdown period, I would have clients coming in and then they will have a whole list of issues. And then I'm like, can you eliminate something that you don't need to action on? So like I've got hormonal acne, I've got my work problem, I've got my kids. Maybe you shouldn't actually focus on your skin issue at the moment, because you can actually put it aside, or you can get some topical or antibiotics if need be to calm it. I'm not against like medication. I practice natural kind of Chinese medicine, but I'm not against medication, because I feel that different people at different life stage, they will need medications. But if all of a sudden you have got all these acne around here and you are really juggling, handling kids at home, you are, you're just very uncertain with your job, maybe it's a time where, just get one thing sorted with medication, and then you can actually kind of come back. You can decide.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the right treatment at the right time of life, isn't it? Dr. Kersh, you have, is it the Dermalux LED? Is that sort of any good for acne and sort of breakouts, would you say?
I would combine that, yes. I mean, I would go again with what Anjali and Ada are saying, and I would combine that. I would stop touching their face mostly. If you're stressed and you're going to touch your face and touch it, it's kind of it's a cycle that you're reinfecting. Give them good skin hygiene and have a look at the cause of their acne. Blue lights tend to work quite well and bring down the inflammation and trying to get bacteria to stop moving, to stop populating, and just getting the area to dry out a bit, along with other treatments that will be specific to what's causing the acne, and combination skin treatments moving forward. But blue lights are brilliant and they're great for young people. There's no downtime, it's not invasive, and it's a very easy thing to do. There's great masks that you can take at home if you want to come to a clinic. There's great masks that you can have at home and treat yourself as well. The results need to be combined. They need to be looked after by a medical person who will guide you through the acne. If it's something that's really bothering you, need treatment, it may not be enough just to have the LED lights constantly.
I mean, the great thing about the LEDs is they're so soothing. You just sort of lie under them for about 20 minutes and you basically fall asleep. I mean,
Now, I have my daughters
dream.
walking around the house with blue lights and orange lights and red lights. I can't see them anymore. They're just there behind the lights, treating whatever they treat. It's brilliant. And it's a lovely, soothing treatment that you could just relax and even fall asleep underneath. It's very calming and it's very nice. It's just trying to get the right energy and the right treatment for whatever it is that you're treating with the LED lights and having realistic expectations out of it.
Somebody has just put in the question box, which is the best at-home LED mask? Do you have any preference? Are there any brands that you think are great? I mean, do the at-home ones even sort of, can they rival the in-clinic ones? Probably not.
Oh, there's so many. There's so many, and it's very budget dependent as well. It depends on what you want to do for you. I do love one that's produced by Harper's Grace. It's quite expensive, but it has all the wavelengths and all the treatments, and it's brilliant. Yes, it's great. For the life of me, I can't tell you the name. Usually my secretary will know the name and get in touch with Harper's Grace.
We can find out and we can let you know on that one. I've just had...
Dermalux then also has one that you can lie underneath. It's like a bit of a tent that you lie.
Oh, like the flexible one.
Yeah,
that's great, because then you can also put it on your chest and on your back. And
I've done that. I have it at home, and for my children who are, adults with acne everywhere. So I
really
nice. Have it on their back, on the chest, on their faces, and it's not stuck on your face, because some people may not like it on their face too close. It's a little bit above you.
You have those solid plastic ones which look quite terrifying out of like a horror film, and I always find them quite claustrophobic. Anjali, do you have any thoughts on at-home LED?
I don't think they're massively effective. If you look at most of the data and you look at the kind of energy that's being emitted, I think there is benefit in a medical clinic setting, but I'm not sure I would personally recommend spending money on a home device.
Very good advice also. This is one for Ada first. I've noticed my eyelids have started to droop at the outside edges, which I know is hereditary, as my mother has the same. Are there any facial massage techniques to help with this?
Which I know
anything to sort of lift the eyes. I don't know exactly what we do there.
I think one of the thing is that it's not just about this area when we are looking at like droopy
the brows.
Yeah. You're actually looking at this whole piece of skull in front of you as well. Like, have you been, and it also depends on your anatomy, like how wide and how long your forehead is. So it's very hard to say how to. I think like the very universal kind of facial massage definitely is really to really help pumping blood to the area, like really guiding it. So then you are giving more oxygen around these places, and then so it would actually look much more plumped, I would say. All I would really be doing here is really just pinching, and then also don't forget the forehead as well. You need to relax all these places to really help lift this area. Obviously, if you've got gua sha tool, or just use the, I don't have it here, but
the jam jar lid that you spoke about.
This is my lip balm, but then imagine you've got a like a pencil. You can actually just go around here just to really relax all the tensions around. Then you will already feel and look one side much more lifted. A lot of the, I don't know if Dr. Suha would agree, but sometimes a lot of the droopiness are caused by tensions, like just very heavy muscles and knots, and also water that's actually being, stagnated all around. So it's all, the first step would really be just loosening them all up.
Just letting go of all that tension. And Dr. Kersh, there was a second part of this question, which I think would be good for you. What procedures would help later when this worsens? So I guess we're talking about the eyes that are starting to drop in later life. Where do we take that?
So that question comes at me from very early on, from people who are in their early 30s onwards to late 50s. And I think there is a beauty about hooded eyes, and there's a beauty, everybody has their own beauty. If somebody who's no hooded eyes like me, I cannot justify having hooded eyes. It will not look nice on me. Somebody like you who's got beautiful, gorgeous eyes, and the hoods around the eyes just make it even more gorgeous. We just have to maintain that and make sure it's beautiful and it's well hydrated and the volume of it is healthy. And that it's not sitting too low where it's making, you're constantly raising your eyebrows and it's affecting your makeup and the way so it's just a matter of actually seeing where are you at in your journey with your eyebrow heaviness. With a little bit of Botox, kind of around the frown lines and around the eyes and crow's feet, lift your eyes and open them. Would that be enough? Or would a therapy with form of skin tightening around the forehead and around the eyes be enough to open them up as well? Other ways of doing that as people get older and that's not enough anymore, a little bit of Botox does not quite lift your eyes, we can start, of course, combining our Botox and our therapy with fillers, dermal fillers, where we inject fillers in the temple because you've had hollowing and volume loss in the temple and the forehead as well. So we inject volume in the temples to raise the eyebrow and bring back the volume that you'd lost that's kind of impacting on your eyebrows, and maybe a little bit here if required. If we achieve a nice natural result, which often is the case, and we can also put some cheek filler. When we come into the cheek, we can just sneak a little bit in here, and when we build a little bit in the cheek, the eyes open up and find the structure and the openness again. If after all of that, and also you have to question yourself as a doctor, if I do all of this for my patient, is it enough, or is it time for surgery? Is it time to arthroplasty? And am I keeping them away from it unnecessarily and making them spend more money and putting themselves through the procedure unnecessarily? So it really depends on your journey and your time in that journey and what's the best way forward, be it Botox and or therapy, be it Botox or therapy and fillers globally, and where and how much in somebody who's a bit younger, maybe a little bit here is enough. Moving on, maybe a bit here and here is enough, and then we have to go there, or is it surgery? So it's a multi-layered approach of how we manage eyelids.
And I guess what is important is to have that sort of very frank conversation with the patient, because I'm sure a lot of people will never be in the market for surgery, and so they are happy to have this constant maintenance over a period of time. But I also liked what you said about sort of sometimes recognizing that there's beauty in these features as well. A hooded eyelid actually can be incredibly beautiful, and it's maybe not something to necessarily think about correcting, but then again, we're all entitled to have our own opinions and thoughts and feelings about our own appearances. So yes, yeah. I think it's just looking at all the available options as always. And a final one that has come in, which I think actually you could all maybe quickly chip into. We've spoken a lot about learning to love yourself. Can anyone give any tips for building self-love? I mean, Dr. Kersh, any thoughts just whilst we have you on the screen?
Self-love, do something nice for yourself every day that actually makes you feel better, be it exercising, be it meditating, be it appreciating something good that you're doing for everybody around you. Just recognize something good about yourself. Try to like yourself for who you are every day. I think that's the first step in.
That's true. You have to start with yourself, don't you?
Try to be positive and do something nice for yourself once in a while that makes you feel good. It doesn't have to be a major thing. It could be a facial. It could be just nice, something nice, a nice cream. It could be getting your hair done. I mean, I'm dying here.
You have amazing hair. What are you talking about?
Recognizable, I think just looking after yourself, caring for yourself. I mean, I had a patient the other day we spent the whole consultation just talking. I refused to do any treatment. Because
and sometimes that's what people need.
They were just not in the right state of mind to do a treatment. And my thing is find something like go and exercise, go for a walk in the park, breathe some fresh air, have some moment of meditation and just stillness for yourself where you can appreciate yourself and the good in your life.
And leave your phone at home when you go to do it. That's my new thing. If I'm going out for a walk, my phone is staying firmly at home because it's just a distraction at times.
I love when I have my phone. I'm so happy.
Yeah, I know. It's the nicest thing. Pure escapism. Ada, what do you think? Any quick tips on finding self-love?
Again, I completely agree, Dr. Suha. Do something that you enjoy and you like. And also, I think there are many things that everyone is different. So for example, when we say we want to find a moment of stillness, for someone would be meditation. But then even for me, I am here. Meditation is like in America for me. I can never meditate. So what I do, like I lie down in my bed, put a heavy duvet, switch off the lights, put on some music. That's it. And that's my happiness.
That's
my
your form of meditation. I love that.
My meditation. And if I want to do a bit more, then I put my hands on my tummy, and then I do a bit of breathing, and then I doze off. So don't, I mean, never feel guilty if you can't really go, because sometimes there are clients who come in and I'm like, okay, what do you like to eat? How's your diet? Oh, my diet is very bad. And actually, it's really not that bad. It's just not the kind of like total wellness standard that everybody in the press is talking about.
Well, sometimes we will hold ourselves to very exacting standards. And I think sometimes, self-love is just about going easy on yourself.
Exactly. And if your friend is doing, 5 days Pilates, that might not be something for you. I mean, you have got 2 kids, she hasn't. So maybe just do 1 or 2 days is more than sufficient for your body.
Exactly.
Just don't burn yourself as well.
I think that's good advice. Anjali, do you have any final thoughts on self-love?
I think it's actually just practicing gratitude and just being grateful for the things that you do have. I think the past few months have been difficult for everyone. I think the mental health of the nation is really not great right now. So I think it is actually just appreciating the small things that we are lucky enough to have, being able to be physically active, to be able to exercise, making sure that, you earn well enough that you can eat well, all of those things, we're so lucky to have all of them. And I think it's just doing that. So daily gratitude practice, I would say.
I love that. And actually, I found in the first lockdown, it was the first time I really sort of was aware of the seasons changing and nature around me. And it's a bit of a cliche, but actually, I think when you actually take the time to get out there, like Dr. Kersh says, go for the walk. And exactly as you say, be appreciative of those little things, just seeing nature, being out in nature, noticing the changes going on around you. I think a lot of that can actually have a very significant impact on how we all feel. So thank you. That was such a nice question to end on, and I'm going to let you ladies go because we've been chatting for nearly 2 hours and I'm sure you're all desperate to have some supper or at least have a drink or something. But I will just finish up by saying a huge thank you to everyone on our incredible Beauty Triangle panel for your tips, your tricks, your wisdom, and just your wonderful ability to really find solutions to all the things, big and small, that I think are sort of concerning us right now. So thank you for your time. I hugely appreciate it. Thank you for bearing with me, also for all of my technical issues, and thank you to our audience for joining us as well. It's been wonderful to have you, and I hope you found tonight really helpful. We would love to have you back at all of our talks and webinars, so do register on our website, thebeautytriangle.com, and we'll make sure that you're always in the loop with everything. And then this video itself will be up on our website in the coming days, so we will send everyone a link to that as well, just in case you want to watch any of it back, in case it wasn't fun enough the first time. But yeah, that's probably it for now. So thanks everyone. Thanks, amazing panel. Lovely to see you all. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. Stay safe.